Hello everyone, my air conditioning is still malfunctioning, but your vast knowledge is not going to increase on its own, so we better just check out this very nice game. A lot of you have suggested it already, even though it was played only yesterday. Nepomniachtchi versus Liviu Nisipeanu. Nisipeanu is a Romanian chess grandmaster. As of 2014, he's a German grandmaster, who I think around 2005 was rated amongst the top 15 players in the world. So it's really amazing that a game such as this one was played against two such very strong players. And I would just like to thank everyone who was able to make it yesterday to my Instagram chess quiz, and special congratulations to everyone who got all of the 15 questions correct. So thank you all for coming. Now, getting back to this game, like I said, it's round 6 of the Dortmund chess meetup, the annual Dortmund chess meetup, and it's really just insane. So let's just dive straight into it. Also, there on the left you can see update agadmator chess clock. So all of your suggestions were input in the agadmator chess clock. Even made all the updates, and it was released, I believe, 2 days ago. So make sure to update your chess clock, but it's still not the full version being released. We still have a few things to check up, and then I will inform you. But if you want, you're welcome to update it now. So getting back to the game, Nepo opens with e4 with e5, knight to f3, and knight to f6. The Petrov defense is on the board. We have knight captures on e5, d6, all standard stuff, and now knight captures on e4, and now knight to c3. This is my favorite line. Against the Petrov, knight captures, d captures, bishop to e7, and now bishop to e3. White says maybe he's gonna go queen d2, maybe castle queenside. We have kingside castle by black, and now queen to d2. So the main line here is knight to d7, just transferring this knight over to f6. From f6 he will do a very nice job of protecting the black king, as white might have some idea. So bringing the bishop to d3, this bishop to d4, maybe, lining up the bishop pair with the black king. But here Nisipeanu plays queen to e8. It's a very rare line, and I don't think it was played all that many times, especially not in high-level chess. The idea is to bring the queen over to a4, which is a really aggressive idea, especially if white castles queenside. And here a few moves were attempted. Bishop to e2 was an idea, bishop to d3 was an idea, also queenside castle was an idea. But here Nepo goes for h4. And believe it or not, already on move 9 we have a completely new game. This move was never played in this position. So Nisipeanu continues, queen to a4. Now, of course, you will not be able to castle queenside. If you castle queenside, just queen captures on a2, and white will not be very happy about this. So Nepo continues with h5. So, just ignoring black's previous move. And h6. Nisipeanu, of course, does not want Nepo to push h6. With bishop to d3. Now, developing the bishop, maybe saying that he's ready to castle kingside. And now rook to e8. Always useful move, as Nepo's king is still in the center of the board, and it's not all that easy. We already said that you can't castle queenside, and if you castle kingside, for example, kingside castle, then you get queen to g4. No longer do you have a rook on h1 to guard your h5 pawn. You can't really guard it. Whatever you play next move, black will just capture here, and you don't really have anything to show for this. So here Nepo plays king to f1. It's sort of like castling, and the king is very safe there, but you still keep your rook guarding the h5 pawn, and also perhaps if something happens in the position, maybe you can get this very nice rook lift in and introduce this rook into the attack. So here bishop to f8, now opening up the e file to the rook, and also the bishop here will be very useful in defending the king side. So what can you do here? Here Nepo played knight to d4. An excellent move by white would have been rook to h4, because now the queen is under attack, and you have to decide where you want to go. Queen to c6 is possible, but the queen is not all that useful on c6. Also, if queen to c6, you just will have problems developing your queenside knight. You can develop it to d7, but if you develop it to d7, then the rook can come to h3, and it's the same if the queen retreats all the way to d7. Now you can return to h3 with the rook, and then you can play rook to g3 and use the rook for attack. So rook to h4 was a very interesting idea here, but okay, Nepo has a different idea. He plays knight to d4, now controlling the f5 square. The knight can also now join the attack, and here we have queen to d7. Keeping an eye on the f5 square, and also by playing queen to d7, now you don't really now you can develop the knight to c6. That's true, but you also allow this very nice rook lift. So, you know, a nice rook lift incoming by Nepo. Rook to h3. The idea is, of course, rook to g3, since the queen is now blocking the bishop. And here we have knight to c6. If you try something like bishop to f5 instead of rook to h3, doesn't really do anything. Black will just move the queen, and then you can trade on c8, but black's bishop is doing really nothing, so there's no point in something like this, if you were wondering maybe about that. So knight to c6, rook to g3, and here, how do you defend? There's already a threat. Bishop captures on h6 is a threat because there's a pin on the g file. But the best course of action for black would have been queen to e7, just giving up the h6 pawn. And here, indeed, if you capture it, bishop captures, then you get knight captures on d4. And after c captures queen to h4, as the rook controls the e file, now you're threatening queen to h1 mate. So here you'd have to play king to g1 to prevent mate, but now queen captures on h5, and, you know, black plays on. Everything continues. The bishop guards the g7 square, so no threats are possible there. But Nisipeanu played king to h8 here. He decided he doesn't want his king at the g file, so this is no longer a threat, as the bishop also controls the h6 square. So Nepo says, okay, knight captures on c6. I have to get rid of your control over the d4 square, so I can get my bishop over to d4. We have b captures on d6, and now bishop to d4. And now Nepo has a huge threat of queen captures on h6, as the g-pawn is now pinned by the bishop as well. So there's it's very hard to defend this. Nisipeanu tries rook to e6, and now how do you continue this attack? Nepo played queen to f4, and it's a really strong move. It threatens queen to f5, and then queen to h7 will be a huge threat. If you want to prevent any ideas here, you will have to further weaken your king side. Just not something you want to do. So here Nisipeanu played queen to e8, now hoping that if queen to f5, then he can trade down into this worst endgame. After rook to e1 check, rook captures on e1, now comes bishop captures on f5. Now comes bishop captures on g7, a very important in-between move, as you want to capture the queen with check, because if you just if you don't do this, then after you trade, black will capture on d3 with check, so you're not going to be able to snatch a piece. So here, first you capture on g7, bishop captures, now you capture the queen with check, rook captures, and only now do you capture on f5. So you get this position where white is up pawn, but you know, the bishops are of opposite colors. Black, you know, had high hopes of holding this position to a draw. But after queen to e8, Nepo did not play queen to f5. Nepo played a different move. Feel free to pause the video here and try to find this killer idea on move 19, which is just insane. You know, a 19 move miniature in modern chess, it is just insane. While I give you a couple of seconds, of course. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent movers of rooks that were lifted. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, rook to e3. Such a wonderful idea, and it's hard to imagine that such a move wins the game, because what's the point? You want to get rid of the rook's control of the h6 square. So of course it's you know, we don't even have to mention that if rook captures, then just queen captures on h6 with check. You cannot capture. King g7, king g8, and now queen to h7 is mate. So capturing on e3 is not an option. So what are your options? Well, you can try to unpin. You can play king to g8, but now you get the same idea. Queen f5, going for queen to h7, and after g6, now you play rook captures on e6, queen captures, and now queen back to f3, and black's position will just fall apart. It seems like black has a lot of options here, but really whatever he does, let's say bishop g7, you can just go rook e1, kick the queen away, and after queen to d7, there's really no good way for black to even continue playing. You can't develop the bishop. You can go here, that's not even a move. You can't go here, the bishop is controlling the a6 square, so whatever you do, well, after white captures, of course, h captures on g6, you can play bishop captures on d4, c captures, and now f5, as, okay, you do control the f5 square, but now just queen to h3. Going after this pawn, after the king blocks, now rook e7, sorry, not rook e7 right away, but first, of course, queen to h4, going for rook to e7 check, and, well, what do you do? King captures here, rook to e7, and now whatever you play, the queen is captured. You can just, well, not even that. If you play a queen to d8, You don't even have to win the queen, you can just deliver mate, just queen g4 as the pawn here is pinned, king to f6, and now queen to g7 will be mate. So that's one of the options you have after rook to e3, and maybe another option would be bishop to d7, just trying to develop, but then you run into rook captures on e6, queen captures, and now rook to e1. Again, where do you go with the queen? You have to move the queen out of control of the h6 pawn, so whatever you do, just queen captures on h6 is coming, or you give up your queen here, but there is no compensation for the queen, it's just lost, all of the threats are still here. So after rook to e3, you could try f6, just numbing you know, the influence of the bishop on d4, but again, queen to f5, just going after h7. This is such a powerful idea, and black is, you know, black's king side is full of holes. If king g8, then it's not a problem. Queen h7 check, king here, and now just bishop to g6 check wins the queen. It's all over. So yeah, after rook to e3, move 19, as I do say it, Liviu Nisipeanu resigned the game, and an epic victory for Jan Nepomniachtchi in round 6 of the Dortmund chess meetup. And it's really gentlemanly from Nisipeanu to resign on move 19, you know, not trying to, you know, play something like f6, you know, waste a few more moves just to make it seem like the game lasted 25 moves. This way history will remember it as a 19-move miniature, and, you know, it's, you know, we should definitely congratulate both players on such a lovely game. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Elvis Amparo and Mario Encinosa for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing the coverage of the FIDE Grand Prix, we have to check out the finals, continuing the Capablanca saga, and checking up on your suggestions, such you know, as this one. And also, do not forget to update your agadmator chess clock. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.